Well, the calendar only says February 25th, but tell that to some of the birds already headed back to Minnesota for spring. Some species start arriving in just a few short weeks, like herons. Minnesota master naturalist Lisa Keitel is here to talk about herons, to talk about birds. A lot of people became bird lovers during the pandemic. I have always been a bird lover because of my dad, but during the pandemic, we sat around and watched them for a long time. So I think a lot of people learned about them, decided to feed them, decided to love them, and have a lot of questions.
I'm so glad to be here. I love talking about birds. And I agree with you. The pandemic was a great time to really pay attention to what's going on right outside your house.
Right outside your backyard. All right, so beyond your backyard, of course, is the beautiful, mighty Mississippi. And that is just a thoroughfare for birds. And specifically, we're going to start talking about blue herons. So tell me about that.
Right. So the Mississippi River is part of the Mississippi Flyway, a major migratory route for many, many, many species of birds. In the next couple weeks, the first great blue herons are going to be arriving. They're going to be coming up looking for nesting sites.
And so we're going to talk about an event where you can learn more about it at the middle of March. Okay, so you say they come up and they nest. And so when they nest, what are they looking for?
They are going to be nesting in a colony. This is called a rookery. There are going to be many, many nests in a protected area. The site we're going to be at in March is an island in the middle of the Mississippi.
So a rookery is a bunch of them, and they gather together because?
Because there's safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers. And you said that how many eggs do they lay?
They lay 2 to 6 eggs, and it's usually just a couple, 2 or 3, that actually survive.
Because you said they're not good parents, right?
They are not very good parents.
It's so interesting. Oh my goodness.
The early birds that hatch are stronger than the birds that are hatching later.
That's how nature works.
That's how nature works. It's not an easy place to live. If a young heron chick falls out of the nest, that's pretty much it.
It's done.
The parents follow a model of out of sight, out of mind.
All right, before we get to questions, because we got some great questions from our viewers from Facebook, but you want to talk quickly about these other migratory birds that you can look to see.
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
This is a beauty, a hooded merganser. They are going to be found on the river and on our ponds and lakes. The red-winged blackbird is great. When you start to hear that conkery kind of sound that the red-winged blackbirds make, you know that spring is coming. Some of our early ducks are the shoveler, which is very distinctive with that big fat bill. And
what a beauty.
In May is when we start to see the warblers. And this is a common yellowthroat, very common in Minnesota. And it's really fun to have that wave of warblers come in May.
The wave of warblers.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we have some questions from our viewers. Okay, so first we're going to start with Don. Don wants to know what kind of feed will attract robins.
So robins primarily eat insects, worms that you've seen them in your yard digging up. So if you want to provide some food for the robins, I would put out mealworms.
Okay, so maybe not a dumb question, but so did they leave and come back, or some stayed, right, and some left, right?
We do have robins that overwinter. It's interesting that we've discovered the robins that we see in the winter have come south from further north.
Okay.
And our robins that we see in the spring and summer head south for the winter. So the robins we have that overwinter also will be feeding on some berries.
Okay.
And
so they came
fruit.
south to get warmer here.
Yes.
Kind of interesting. Okay, so now this is a good question you said. Paula asked if she should add mealworms to bird seed for these migrating birds.
That is a great idea. Especially with this heavy dose of snow that we just have received, that would be a great supplement, again, for those insect-eating songbirds and warblers that come through.
Yeah, and I notice a number of bird stores that I love to go to, they have them all ready to go. They're kind of all into the seed, like if you're using those cones. So just get something with mealworms, and you can just easily put that out there.
Right.
All right, we have another question that just came in this morning, which is great. What is the best way to clean bird feeders? I have heard with bleach, and then I've heard never use bleach. How often should you clean them, and what should you clean them with? This is Peggy from Egan. Thanks, Peggy.
Yeah, good question. You want to pay attention to your feeders. In the winter, I clean my feeders once a month. In the spring and summer, you're going to want to up that to weekly or every other week. You want to keep them clean and do give them a quick little rinse in bleach.
Okay.
That's going to kill any bacteria or viruses that can affect particularly finches.
And then just rinse it out one more time, get
Yep.
that bleach out of there,
Yep.
right? Okay, I think we have one more question, I think, coming in. Okay, what can you do about Cooper's hawk eating all the songbirds?
Oh
The
gosh,
Cooper's hawk.
this is a tough one because your feeders are bringing in all these beautiful little birds, but you need to remember bird feeders feed all birds,
Yep.
including the Cooper's hawk. There really isn't anything you can do to prevent that. Again, nature is a tough, tough place to live.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And someone asked, do birds have teeth? Do any birds have teeth?
Right. They're not necessarily teeth, but they are little tiny filament kinds of things that will act as a sieve. The mallard duck, the duck that we see all the time, has a tiny little row of let's call them teeth.
Yeah.
So when they scoop up a mouthful of plants from under the water can drip out and the plant material stays in its mouth.
Well, the Minnesota bird, the loon, when do they come back?
They're going to be coming sometime in March. We'll start to see. They're
Okay.
very dependent on open water.
Yep.
And if the lakes stay frozen up north, they all kind of pile up at the latest open water.
Isn't that amazing that they know that? And a lot of people don't realize they do not walk on land, so they have to
Right.
go from water source to water source because the front of their bodies are just too heavy.
Exactly.
Their feet are too far back, so
Yep.
they only fly and swim.
Right.
Fly and, swim, which is
Yep.
so cool. I love
Yep.
that. Such good questions, such good answers. I want to tell everyone about this event that's happening because this is happening in just in a couple weeks. You want to learn more about blue herons, and we really appreciate you coming by today. Just a
Yeah.
plethora of information. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Good.
Okay, so there is a link on our website to the Mississippi Park Connection and the Heron event. It's happening on March 18th, and all that information is on care11.com.